Right, so sometimes when you paint your wall, you might come to an intersection where you have a sealant, okay? See, for example, near the cistern tank. And I've zoomed out, to where I've got, the sealant in between the wall and, the PVC shelf, or plastic right behind the cistern tank. So I had the green frog tape between the wall and the plastic and recoated or overcoated, and once again, the white paint that was previously on the wall. And it turned out to be quite a good match. And that's pretty much because white kind of like blends with white, so you wouldn't really have an issue. But if you decide to overcoat, the base coat white with an overcoat of green, you might have, the green latching on to the sealant, even if there was masking done with, the frog tape over the white sealant. You might just about get away with it if you take off the masking, but it wouldn't look aesthetically very good. And if you try cleaning off, the olive green paint from the white sealant, you'd have, a pretty tacky or messy job. In some instances, you might get away with it, but it wouldn't look aesthetically very pleasing. When you paint with contrasting colors, you're always looking for a crisp finish between lines, okay? As opposed to, the paint overlapping, on, the white sealant, which is a different color. And how do you get a crisp line or a fine line between the green olive paint and the white sealant? I kind of get around this problem, by just merely taking off the sealant, okay? You kind of want, the sealant to sit on the paint and not the paint, to sit on the sealant. So it's more like, you're getting off the old sealant and you're going to impress that, or, the new sealant is going to stay on the new green olive paint. And when I'm done, you will see the difference, okay? So here I am using a standing knife and taking off, the sealant that's right between the plastic that's in front of the tile and the wall, and subsequently making sure that every bit of old sealant is taken off, okay? Then run the green frog masking tape over the white plastic that's between the tile and the green wall, so that I can paint around the areas where the old sealant was sat, the old sealant that I've just removed. Then as soon as the paint dries off, run another masking tape, which will be the area or the gap where the new sealant would sit on. And as you can see, I've pretty much, run, the masking tape, around the wash basin. Where it's going to be curved, it's curved. Where it's going to be straight, it's straight. Just be quite imaginative with how you want the sealant to sit on the wash basin, okay? So I've also got my 180 grit sandpaper, which is my fine sandpaper, and the coarse sandpaper, which is the 80 grit, just in case, say perchance, I take off the masking tape after applying, the new sealant, and I get peeling off, I can sandpaper that with a coarse sandpaper, fine tune it with the 80 grit sandpaper, and then repaint over it, okay? So it's pretty common when you do a lot of paint work that sometimes you find out that, the paint comes off. I've got me little green olive paint here on standby just in case I've got any peeling issues. That may arise as a result of, the wall not being properly primed, you've got water, bubbling underneath the paint, or the paint not fully been dried, or that the paint on the wall is an old paint and it was only overcoated once and it's quite flaky. A host of reasons could cause peeling, but to pick up from where we left off, double mask, the gap that you want to apply the sealant on. From here, I will be showing you how to redo the sealant or reseal the sealant around your wash basin and behind the cistern in your bathroom. Can be quite tricky when you change the color from white to a different color, because white pretty much blends with the sealant, but when you change the color, you find out that the olive green paint with the previous sealant didn't blend in well. It looked quite tacky, so I had to take out the sealant, sandpapered, the surface, wiped it with a microfiber cloth, and painted over the surface, applied masking tape. And now the next step of the process is to apply sealant between, both of the masking tapes, okay? So that the new sealant sits properly on the olive green painting. The previous color of the wall was white, and despite the fact that masking tape was covered all over the old sealant, and paint and the wall was painted olive green, it still looked quite tacky. Okay, so that's why I had to rework the process so that aesthetically it looked quite decent. So here I'm applying the sealant at 90 degrees push fit as opposed to 45 degrees. And if you want to see how I selected the sealant, the FugiKit profile, and why the application is at 90 degrees, click on the link in the description. It should take you to the respective videos. After applying the silicone sealant, I will be using the Fuji profile to profile the gap, or to spread the sealant around the masking tape area that's been cordoned off with tapes on both sides between the sealant. With tapes, it could be a bit of a hit and miss. With the 3M high precision tapes, they're quite delicate, they're quite precise, but sometimes you get paint sipping underneath them. Whereas with the FrogTape or the painter's tape, they come with an inbuilt paint block technology that produces sharp paint lines or masking lines, as well as the block paint or prevent paint from sipping or getting underneath the FrogTape. The downside is that when you're trying to get the FrogTape off the painted wall, sometimes you get paint peeling. Doesn't matter if you're doing it correctly at 45 degrees, you're taking out, the masking tape off at 45 degrees. You can still get, paint peeling. Some of the reasons could be that the paint hadn't dried properly before you started, undoing the masking tape. It could be that you applied too much force. It could be that the removal angle was incorrect. It could also be that, you had like a budget kind of paint on your wall, so the wall was primed, it was just one overcoat, wasn't too strong, okay? In a bathroom that's not well ventilated, when you have steam consistently, seeping in through the paint, it's only, expected that when you're trying to get the painter's tape off the wall, that it will peel, okay? But not to worry, click on the link in the description and you will find links as to how to rework the paint peeling. But a quick overview as to how to sort it would be to get your painter's knife or your scraper, scrape out the paint, sandpaper, prime if necessary, and give it 2 or 3 overcoats, following the base coat, but just make them thin applications, okay? And so you can see here I'm taking up the masking tape and also reworking inconsistencies. And because I've taken out the old sealant, taken out the foreign object debris, used the microfiber cloth to clean it, scrape it off, then painted over it. The new sealant that has been applied with the Green Frog painter's tape, sits in perfectly, aesthetically looks good, a lot better, than the previous, how it sat, with the old sealant. In my opinion, it doesn't look as tacky as it was before. So from here onwards, I'll be visually inspecting, the sealant. Where I find defects, I just rework it and repeat and reproduce the process until I'm satisfied, okay? And if you want something incisive or more in-depth as to, how I got out the sealant, how I choose the profile, and, how I selected the appropriate sealant, click on the link in the description, okay? It also pretty much covers how to reseal the bath, with sealant in your bathroom. And in this instance, because I am applying the sealant between the tiles and the coloured wall, I wouldn't wait for the sealant to dry for about 24 hours before I take off the FrogTape. I will take out the FrogTape whilst the sealant is somewhat still soft, okay? Because if I take it out when the sealant is fully dried, I may have peeling on the paint, and that would just be more laborious to rework the process. So it's always best to think about what you're doing. If it was in the bathtub where you've just got the tile and the bathtub, I'm not really worried because it's all white anyways, and you wouldn't have any peeling on the tiles. But with a coloured wall, you want to be sensible about when you take off the FrogTape. The upper part where I've got the tiles looks fine. I've taken up the masking tape, looks absolutely brilliant. But when I look underneath the wash basin, as soon as I start taking off the painter's tape there, the paint starts peeling off. But not to worry, you can always rework it. It's a sacrifice you pay sometimes when you are trying to use different colors on your wall, okay? Rework the peeled paint, scrape it off with the sandpaper, clean it with a microfiber cloth, and paint over it, yeah? And underneath, I've got some peeling, so I've just pretty much reworked it with the process as previously stated. And now that you've got the hang of it, we're just going to repeat and reproduce the process, on the plastic that's behind the cistern tank. So I have taken off a large chunk, of the sealant that's between the plastic and the wall. And that's because the olive green paint that latched onto the sealant wasn't looking good aesthetically. And you can see that, the old sealant was very, very flexible, very stretchy, very durable, and takes a tremendous amount of force to even break it. And just, merely looking at the size of the sealant that was taken out, between the plastic and the wall, um, it's pretty evident that you would need no less than 3 sealant cartridges to fill it back in. To save time, I did some masking on the white plastic, and painted the area where the previous sealant sat on, so you can see, right through, at the bottom of, the green painted wall, you can see that it's all painted green there. The next step, as before, would be to tape the gap between the wall and the plastic, pretty much where I would want to fill in the new silicone sealant. And I pretty much used, the old sealant that was taken out the huge chunk to work out, the profiling tool that would be needed, to spread the sealant over once it's filled in, as well as, the amount of sealant that would be required, okay? This definitely will consume, a lot of sealant, but just keep filling the gap, between the wall and the plastic up until it fills up. Push fit the sealant in, by squeezing on the trigger of the sealant gun. You can work the sealant, in segments or sections, one section or segment, one at a time, okay? Your profiling tool should corroborate or match the gap that you're trying to spread the sealant over. So at this stage, I will be finishing, the sealant and spreading it so that it's smooth, and, the painter's tape provides that crisp line, when you remove the tape afterwards. So I'm going to repeat and reproduce the process for the other corners, around the white plastic. And you can see, the sizable chunk, kind of like helps me to work out the size of the profile tool that I'll be needing to spread the sealant, through the gap. And before I use the FugiKit profile tool, at first, squeeze, a sizable amount of silicone sealant, between the wall and the white plastic. At this stage, I will squeeze or push fit as much silicone sealant between the gap, ensuring that it fills, the crevices or the apertures around the white plastic, and then subsequently use the Fuji profile kit to spread the sealant, in the gap, to finish it, to make it quite smooth. Look for tiny bits of holes, during the application. Anywhere you find holes, make sure you smoothen them out, and you press fit and smoothen them out, okay? And whilst the sealant is still soft, get the masking tape off. And like I said, paint peeling comes with the territory, so just repeat the process, the rework process. Like I said, use your scraper's knife, take out the scrap bits, use your sandpaper, clean with a microfiber cloth and paint over again. But this time around, you can see where I've got them yellow tape, so I've kind of reworked it and painted over the minutest of detail. So wherever I've got imperfections, after paint removal, I keep on using them tapes, up until I'm satisfied that, I've got a crisp, fine line, okay? Suffice to say, there's no telling what you're going to find behind the tape, even if you're taking up the tape correctly at 45 degrees, So I'll speed up the drying process, lightly with a hairdryer, and subsequently take the remainder of the tapes, off the sealant to see if, the imperfections are still there. And from all indications, they're gone. So I'm pretty satisfied with the result, okay? So just remember, when you're playing with contrasting colors, it could be between, an olive green wall and a white green wall, or an olive green paint and the white sealant. Detailing, is very important, as your lines tend to be more evident or stand out, okay? So you can see here it's more crispy. It's more like, the sealant is sitting, on the wall, as opposed to the wall sitting on the sealant. And that's about it, really. If you found the information useful, don't forget to subscribe, like and share. Helps the channel grow, and hopefully catch up with you soon. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. Goodbye. This video shows you how to seal around your bathroom taps as well as your wash basin taps with sealant. So here I have got the OB1 multi-surface construction sealant and adhesive. It comes pretty much in the clear color. Clear just means that it's completely absent of color and cloudiness, but from my experience, it doesn't mean that it's see-through. Okay, if you want to see how I sealed the bath, click on the link in the description and it should take you to the appropriate video. So here I have cut the size of the sealant nozzle to the size of the FugiKit profile. I'm pretty much squeezing on the sealant gun and getting sealant around the bathroom tap. The multi-surface sealant adhesive, says it's the, ultimate sealant adhesive. It can be used on a multitude of, building substrates like your marble, your polycarbonate, your PU adhesives, water adhesives, polystyrene, glass mirror, ceramics, copper, lead, plastics, aluminium, and when applied to a small surface area, it can also provide a high tensile and bond strength. So we're going to repeat the process with a translucent sealant. It's a low modulus acetoxy sealant, silicone sealant. So first we're going to cut the nozzle of the translucent sealant, to the FugiKit profile. And in this case, we're going to use 6 centimeter. You can use 6 centimeter. You can profile it to 8 centimeter. It all just bothers on the gap you're trying to cover. Translucent hinges on, allowing light but not detailed shapes to pass through, so suffice to say it's semi-transparent. Although translucent denotes that it is a see-through material, the visibility on the other side would still remain cloudy or blurred, so you generally can't see through it. And we're going to apply this, to the bathroom taps as well as the wash basin taps. So I'm pulling on the trigger, I'm squeezing, the trigger, but I can't seem to get any sealant out. I'm not 100% sure if there's a manufacturing defect with the sealant, but the date of manufacture is 2019. And so I took off the nozzle, and you can see that, it's looking quite thick in there as opposed to like smooth and moist. This cartridge is brand new. The sealant was well sealed or concealed in the cartridge, so there is no question of air getting into the acetoxy sealant and making it quite thick, or accelerating its curing time exponentially. So in cases like this, I'll get myself like a metal hanger and just straighten out the tip of the hanger and sort of like puncture the thick sealant through to see if I can get some very soft and flowing and fluid sealant on the inside. So at this stage I'm pretty much puncturing the sealant rigorously, and hopefully I can get some out, but it just saves me time running back to the shop to get another one. And as you can see, it's still looking quite thick, so I repeat and reproduce the process, puncture it more, apply pressure, puncture the sealant and with twists and turns and a push fit type of application. Hopefully the force that has been exerted at various points whilst puncturing the sealant should produce some results. And as you can see, I've got the fluid part of the sealant sticking out from the cartridge, so I'm good to go. I can use this to seal around the bathroom taps and the wash basin taps. Sometimes you can get sealant clogged up in your cartridge. You can't keep pulling on the trigger of the gun because you might damage your gun. Okay, and now it's time for the application. From here onward, squeeze on the trigger and run some sealant around the ring base of the bathroom or wash basin tap. Run it in a steady motion without an excessive squeeze on the trigger. And once you're able to complete your circular bead, then you can begin to profile around, the ring base of the tap. Size 6, matches the ring base of the tap. You may have noticed that the profile on, the size 6 is not entirely straight, and that's because when I cut off, the nozzle, from the cartridge, sometimes, the Stanley knife cuts through the profile, so just take care that you're not actually damaging the FugiKit when you're cutting the nozzle. In order to get, the circular layout, at the ring base of the tap, the profile is just tilted, slightly, whilst, running, around the ring, okay? To get, the circular, spread, on the wash basin itself, at the ring of the tap. So we're going to glide, the profile kit, at say 80 or 85 degrees, slightly tilted from 90 degrees, when we are spreading the sealant at the bottom of the tap, and wipe away any excess sealant that's caught up onto the tap. Then subsequently rotate or flip the FugiKit in its concave orientation when you want to profile underneath the tap where the water gushes or oozes out from. As you can see, I'm using the concave profile as opposed to the 6 cm profile on the FugiKit. When working underneath, directly the tap mouth, to have more room, because the 6 cm or 8 cm profile wouldn't fit in there properly to spread the sealant over at the bottom of the tap ring. And just keep interchanging the profile, between 6 cm and your concave profile till you're happy with the ring that's been installed or applied to the ring base. And now that you get the hang of it, we're going to repeat and reproduce the process for the other wash basin tap. So a quick recap of the process would be to distribute the translucent sealant of the tap evenly or uniformly as best as we can. I do understand that the angles that can be quite awkward, but try your best possible to maneuver your way right through. And if you're still experiencing difficulties, you can get them rotating nozzle types that could reach very awkward angles. Okay. And once we're happy with the sealant that's been applied, we begin to profile the base. So basically, we're just covering up the gap to ensure that, when you've got water that splashes around, your wash basin, it doesn't sit between the tap and your wash basin, okay? Just keep repeating and reproducing the process until you get a very fine ring crisp line. And where you've got sealant that's not evident, feel free apply more sealant with the cartridge gun, and profile the ring bottom accordingly. And clean off any excess sealant with your kitchen towel or rag. The next step would be to proceed to actually seal around the bathroom tap. So here we will be repeating and reproducing the process with a translucent sealant. But with the OB1 clear sealant, I find out that when it dries, it turns kind of like yellow, or it's got like a color to it, but it's still a very good sealant. But with this translucent sealant, the LMA, or low modulus 200, I'm still yet to see how it plays out, over a protracted period of time when it's taking a hit, in the bathroom, from water, from steam and whatnot. Okay, but so far so good. It looks good. Apart from the prior issue that I faced with the sealant just being solid in the cartridge when it's never been used, I am running a bead ring of sealant around the base ring of the bathroom tap. And if you get pretty much stuck behind the tap, you're always free to get them rotating nozzles. But I think with just some perseverance, this just about does the job. You can actually get the straight on or fixated nozzle behind the tap. Shouldn't really be a problem. And instead of using your fingers, you can always use the profiling kit to smoothen out or to spread the sealant at the base of the bathroom tap. So you can use whatever profile you choose to use. So here I'm using the concave profile, to spread the sealant behind the tap. It's just going to be a bead of light spread, behind the tap, but just about does the job. Then as I come to the front, begin to alternate, the profile to a 6 cm, and just slightly run that through, at the base ring of the bathroom tap. Then continue onwards to repeat and reproduce the process, until I'm satisfied that I've got, the sealant evenly distributed along the line of travel at the base of the ring. Blend it out, make sure it's smooth and not looking overly tacky with the profile. With constant practice and with time, you will develop the skills needed to navigate or to maneuver your way around awkward angles and around working sealant through at the base of your tap. And now that we have virtually profiled the base of the tap, we're just going to wipe off any excess sealant that we find, so that it doesn't solidify or dry up on the parts where we do not want the sealant on. Okay. Why is it important to seal? your bathroom, because you simply do not want leaks. No system is fail proof. So ensuring that your bathroom is watertight, you've got no leaks, could save you costly repairs. And so now that you get the hang of it, we're going to repeat and reproduce the process on a different wash basin tap. So just as before, get your sealant into the cartridge, squeeze on the trigger, get some sealant at the base ring, of your tap, ensure it's evenly distributed. Be generous with the amount, but not overly generous. Okay, get your profile and begin to profile the sealant, to spread the sealant, along the base where water. There's that likelihood that water might seep through or leak away. It might not be apparent to the naked eye that the base here could be a source of leak, but it can be a porous membrane. It can be a source of concern. If you have water leaking through your tap, over a protracted period of time, you can only imagine what's happening behind your walls. Like they say, small droplets make an ocean. So make sure it's tight. Make sure you seal out or you seal up. Any apertures that might have an opening. And after profiling them taps, this is what it looks like for the lower modulus acetoxy translucent sealant. So I'm just going to zoom out and get it a lot more closer, so you can have bird's eye view as to the sealant application, behind the taps, side of the tap, in front of the tap, just to ring around the base. Really, you are applying the OB1 clear multi-surface adhesive or sealant. It's the same process. Okay, just repeat the process. Ring around the base, make sure it's airtight, finish, smoothing out with a profile FugiKit, and you should be good. Okay, so I was curious as to why this cartridge was clogged up, despite the fact that it's never been used. This cartridge was manufactured in 2019. Sealants do typically have a 1-year shelf life guarantee. BSI standards SO2230, classes, silicone sealants as a group C with an initial 10 years of shelf life. Okay. So opening this up, you can see that the sealant is like a candle. It's all solid, like molten lava that has solidified. It's virtually impossible to get any squeeze out of this. With your gun, you could damage a gun actually. Okay, your sealant gun. You see, 2019. I can't think of any other reason why this has happened except maybe the way it was stored in the decorating center. If you know any plausible reasons or the probable root cause, you could drop your comments in the comment section. I managed to get some translucent sealant from the first one, but not this second tube. I couldn't get any. You can see it's pure solid. And what I tend to do after any sealant job is that I close out the nozzle with a masking tape, and I also close out the cartridge opening where it's got its airway with a tape as well. Pretty much, once air comes into contact with the sealant, it increases the curing time and whatnot. So preventing air from getting into your nozzle and also into the cartridge is important. So one at the base and one at the nozzle tip of your sealant cartridge. And if the sealant in your nozzle becomes solid, just get out your hanger. Use the hanger tip and to pull out the sealant from the nozzle. Now, if you want to see links on how to select the appropriate sealant, how to choose a profile tool, how to seal your bath, how to repair or rework peeling paint from your wall, click on the link in the description. It should take you to a lot of useful videos that could help. And that's about it really. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share, helps the channel grow. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. Catch up later. Goodbye.